helix, Kemper, Axe effects, head rush, impulse responses, profiles, patches, reamp zone, live ready sound, full range, flat response. What does that even mean? FR cab. Let me try this guy's patches. Let me try these profiles. Downloading now. This is gonna be epic. This doesn't sound anything like it did in the guy's demonstration video. God's cab. Chop tones. 3 Sigma audio. Joey Sturgis. Metal pack. Well, this guy owns a studio. I'm sure his stuff's gonna be amazing. Sweet. 20% off. Great guitar tone. Starts with good impulse responses. Oh, I get it. It sounded better yesterday. Guess I gotta update. Oh, this guy makes the best profiles. Oh, I found it. This is the tone. Oh, this guy makes the best profiles. Dude, you gotta hear this. Let me put you on speaker. Hang on. Did you get that clip I sent you? Freaking badass, ain't it? It sounded better yesterday. It turns the knob and picks the tone. It turns the knob and picks the tone. Why? Is this you? It was me. Yep. I fell into what is known as the digital platform rabbit hole. But I got out, and I'm going to show you how to get out too. And for those of you who are new to the digital platform world and you haven't fallen in yet, I'm going to show you how to make sure it never happens to you. Let's go. So you got yourself a new toy. You got yourself a Helix, a Kemper, Axe Effects, or a Head Rush or something like that. And you're really looking forward to digging into all the cool features and options that come with it. You know, it's funny how the reason why we get these is because we want to simplify our lives and simplify our rigs and make things more easy and compact and portable for us. And then we end up finding ourselves making it more difficult because we get distracted with all the great opportunities that come with these. So I have 11-ish type pointers here that I want to give you that will help keep you from falling into these traps. Also, if you already fell into one of the traps, I'm going to help you claw your way out and never have to worry about going down there again. So what I'm going to do is list each pointer right here on this side of the screen so that you can keep an eye on them, and then we'll discuss each one as we go. Now, further into this video, I will be giving you some audio examples to help supplement some of the points that I'll be making. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do when you're dialing in a profile or a patch that you're interested in is let it speak to you. Like, what are the first impressions that you get? And be brutally honest. If it has a lot of potential and it just needs minimal tweaking, then go ahead and put in the time to do that, but still maintain that brutal honesty and know when to back out and skip it and go to the next one before you spend too much time on it. Because remember, ear fatigue is real, and if you spend too much time tweaking stuff, you're going to wear your ears out, and pretty soon nothing's going to sound good to you at all, and you're going to make a lot of bad choices. So trust your first impressions and your instincts and move quickly to the next one before you wear out your ears. So let's say you do pick something that you really like. Well, the next day when you fire up your rig and start playing that same profile that you thought was amazing yesterday, once again, rely on your first impression the second day and use that brutal honesty to tell you whether or not you still like it. Because there's many times that I liked something yesterday that I thought was like it was the holy grail of tones. I'm sold, I'm done, I never need to dial in another tone or a preference or a profile or anything ever again, because I've arrived. And the next day I fire it up and I literally go, what the hell was I thinking? Because this thing sounds like total crap. And you have to go with that instinct, you know, because I might have wore out my ears the day before. I mean, who knows? You know, I mean, who knows what kind of garbage patch I listened to before I picked the one that sounded better, but it just didn't sound awesome. But it sounded so much better than the one before that I thought it was amazing. You see what I'm saying here? That does happen. So the next day, your first impression of that same patch that you thought was amazing yesterday, really trust your instincts on that and be brutally honest. And don't try to fine tune it and make excuses and fix it. Delete it, move on, go to something else, because now you have fresh ears and a fresh perspective, and chances are you're going to be on the right path now. So here's the part where I show you the tire kicking riffs that I use to check out a profile to see if it works for me. Now, if it doesn't pass this test, I won't even bother to put it in a mix to see how it sounds there, because number one, it has to support my playing style. So here we go. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just do some simple palm mutes with some chords, and I want to see how it responds to that. Now I don't just do it on the thicker strings, I also do it on the thinner strings like the D string, because if it can sound thick and chocolatey on that string and I can kind of feel the pick digging into the string, well, that's a good sign that this is a good profile so far. So here we go. Yeah, that sounds really good. It's really fat. There's a lot of good pick attack on there, and it's very aggressive. So I like that so far. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just play some big chords. I want to hear the note separation and the size of sound. Yeah, so far so good. We got a lot of good size of sound, and I can hear all the individual notes in the chords, so far so good. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is do like a harmonic response. It's a pretty simple test, but the harmonics should really jump off of the strings, and they should have a nice ping to them, and they should sustain really well. For this, I'm going to turn the noise gate down a little bit so it doesn't interfere with the sustain. Yeah, that sounds really good. They pinged really well, and I can hear that nice brittle top end on the harmonics as I was running down the string, so that sounded really good. Even on the lower string, you can hear them popping out pretty good. And that's tuned to drop A. Okay, so for the next test, I'm just going to do some quick runs, and I do some tapping and stuff in my normal style of playing, so I want to make sure that it supports that and has the sustain that I need, and once again, I need to make sure that it supports my style of playing, because if it doesn't, there's really no need to move further with this. Well, it definitely supported my style of playing. There might be some fine tweaks that I got to make, but so far so good. But I think it's definitely good enough to put in the next test, which is how does it sit in a mix? Okay, so what I did is I randomly selected 5 different profiles out of my Kemper and I dropped them in a mix of one of my band songs. So we have a full band mix here. We have drums, bass, guitar, vocals, backup vocals. We got all that stuff going on. And we're going to see how these sound in the mix. And you're going to find that there's some really, really big things revealed here about all of these guitar tones. Some of them are really good standouts, and some of them aren't worth my time at all. And this has been a really good education for me, and I hope it is for you as well.
Come taste and see what real life can be. Be a hero in your true life's mission. Focus inside and you will survive with every intention to be free. You're being fooled, you're caught in a trance, eternal deception in a mask. Come back to me, your reality. I want you back. Come taste and see what real life can be. Be a hero in your true life's mission. Focus inside and you will survive with every intention to be free. You're being fooled, you're caught in a trance, eternal deception in a mask. Come back to me, your reality. I want you back. Come taste and see what real life can be. Be a hero in your true life's mission. Focus inside and you will survive with every intention to be free. You're being fooled, you're caught in a trance, eternal deception in a mask. Come back to me, your reality. I want you back. Come taste and see what real life can be. Be a hero in your true life's mission. Focus inside and you will survive with every intention to be free. You're being fooled, you're caught in a trance, eternal deception in a mask. Come back to me, your reality. I want you back. Come taste and see what real life can be. Be a hero in your true life's mission. Focus inside and you will survive with every intention to be free. You're being fooled, you're caught in a trance, eternal deception in a mask. Come back to me, your reality. I want you back.
Well, like I said, that was pretty revealing. So, well, one of the things that I learned from this is there was a particular profile that I overlooked a couple months ago. And now that I've heard it in a mix, I'm actually going to give this one a shot because I really liked how that stood out in the mix and it sounded amazing. Okay, so the thing you want to pay attention to is how does it feel? A lot of times we can pull up a profile or a patch that sounds amazing, but when we start playing it, we start realizing that it's lacking some things in the feel department. Maybe it's really flubby. Maybe it's really unresponsive. Maybe it doesn't have very good sustain. So what you want to do at that point is quickly get an overdrive put in front of it and make sure that the overdrive pedal does not change the tone so much that you don't even recognize the amp anymore. Once you do that, and if it fixes the feel, then you're on the right path. Just don't spend a lot of time on it. So if that doesn't work, then just move on to the next one. Okay, so now that we've covered making sure that we're brutally honest about the negative things about a certain profile or patch that we're checking out, let's talk about the positive side. Let's make sure that the profile or patch that you're listening to is great right out of the gate. In other words, it needs minimal to no tweaking at all. I mean, as soon as you start playing this thing, the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you feel really good about it, and it sounds freaking amazing. Now, that's something that's worth hanging on to for a few minutes and really digging into and getting to know it more and running it through its paces to make sure that that's something that you want to keep. Okay, so here's a big one right here. I know that you're dealing with a digital platform, but the thing is the technology is so good now that all of these have a level of quality that's really good now. So trust the technology and treat it like an amp. If you treat it like an amp, it'll sound like an amp. If you treat it like a science project, it's going to sound like a science project. Now, whether or not you're going to get it to sound exactly like the real amp is still up for debate in all the forums and Facebook groups out there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting a usable tone that you're very happy with and it's convincing. So once again, treat it like an amp. Turn the knobs on it just like you would an amp. If the tone on your favorite amp is set at 12 o'clock, well then set it on your digital platform at 12 o'clock too. I know it'll come very close to what you're used to anyways. Same thing with the gain and all of the other settings on there. Match it to what you would do naturally on an amp, and most likely you're going to come very close to that real amp. Okay, so another thing that you can do on most of these is have a section where you have like a favorites folder. So what you want to do is save all of these in there. That way you know you have a place where you can go and get some really legit vetted tones that you've ran through their paces. So you can grab any one of these and know that they're going to be legit and they're going to work very well in any situation regarding practice, regarding performing, or even the studio. And the reason why I bring up the favorites folder too isn't just for keeping them in there and having a place to get legit tones from that have been vetted. But the other thing too is sometimes we get bored with a certain amp profile and we just want to change things up, but we also don't want to get back down to the rabbit hole to find something else. So this is a really good place to go to get something and change things up with minimal work and minimal effort and time. All you have to do is grab it and put it where you need it, and then now you got a new profile to play, and you know it's good. And you know you don't have to do all the knob turning and tweaking and guessing again. It just keeps it really simple. Okay, so here's another really good one that works for me every time. If I'm really digging a tone and I've been playing it for a few minutes and I like how it feels, I like how it sounds, I like how it responds, the next thing that I'm going to do is put it through the clean dirty test. So I'm going to immediately save that tone, and then I'm going to go over to a clean patch and I'm going to play that for a few minutes and really kind of smooth things out and get used to how pretty and how sparkly it is. And there's really nothing in that clean patch that's annoying my ears at all. Now, as soon as I transition back from that to the dirty tone that I was on that I like so much, it's going to tell on itself immediately. If there's anything in there that's ugly or annoying or pointy or harsh, it's going to come out right away. And if none of that happens, you're definitely on the right path to a good tone. So definitely give it the clean dirty test. And one thing that's good about that as well is it keeps your ears from being fatigued. It's almost like giving them a break for a few minutes and then doing something that's kind of pleasant. In other words, kind of like cleansing the palate. You know, it's kind of like when you have a several course meal at an Italian restaurant. They give you the sorbet in between to kind of prepare your palate for the next course. It's kind of what you're doing. Look at the clean patch as a nice little serving of sorbet to cleanse your palate for the next course, which is back into that really heavy, dirty tone that you really like so much. Because think about it this way. You're going to be switching from your clean patches to your dirty patches live and in the studio. Think about what the listener's going through when that happens. If it's jarring for the listener to experience that, you really need to switch to something else. Okay, so another quick test to run it through is to play both rhythm and lead on that same profile or patch. Because a lot of times harsh frequencies can hide inside of a patch or profile when you're playing chords and things like that on it. But as soon as you start playing some single note passages, especially on the upper registers of the neck, you might notice some things that might be hurting your ears a little bit. And you can either adjust those out if it's just a fine tuning thing or move on to the next one. Okay, here's another thing that happens quite often to me and unexpectedly is I'll dial in a new profile and all of a sudden I feel inspired by it. I'll actually write something with it. And it's really cool when that happens. So if it actually inspires you to write something new and to play in a way that you haven't played before, that's actually a really good sign that you're on the right path with this particular profile. I would definitely investigate this one further and spend more time with it and see where it goes. Now, another way to make sure that the tone that you're checking out is legit, put it right up against an amp that you have in your house. Play them right next to each other and see how close it is to the real thing. And if that amp has been used in recordings, live shows, band practices, and personal practices, and it's worked out fine, if that profile matches that amp, well, that's going to work out fine for you as well. So that's a really good test to put it through. And once again, be honest with yourself at how close it is. You know, if it's way far off, just move on to the next profile until you find something that's so close you can't tell the difference. And with the technology the way it is nowadays, it's not hard to find that. And if you have a Kemper or any other profiler, what you want to do is just profile the amp that you love. If you have an amp that you love and you're just switching to a digital platform because it's easier and more portable, I get it. We'll profile that amp and make sure that it's legit. Make sure that you listen to them both and A/B them against each other. And now you know it's legit and you don't have to worry about it anymore. No second guessing. So that's another really good way to do it. Okay, so let's talk really quick about the purchasing of things like Kemper profiles, patches for your Helix or your Axe-Fx or Head Rush. Number one, get a free sample before you buy. There's a few really good reasons why I say that. Number one, the free sample is typically a very mainstream version of the product that they offer. If they can't get that right, chances are they can't get anything right. And you're going to save money by passing on that product and moving on to something else. Number two, and I can tell you this from personal experience, I've bought patches before and impulse responses before based on samples that I saw in YouTube videos, and they sounded amazing. And then I swipe the card and download it, and next thing I know, I'm pulling my hair out because it doesn't sound anything like it did in the video. But unbeknownst to me, what they did is homogenize the crap out of it so that it sounded really good in the demonstration video. In other words, they added a bunch of EQ and compression to it so that it sat really good in the mix and fooled me into thinking that it sounded like that. And really what these guys should be doing is giving you samples of the raw tones and say that this is unprocessed, there's no pre or post processing done to this at all, and then we can make an educated decision based on what we're really hearing instead of a very overly decorated version of it. And this has happened with impulse responses and with patches that I bought for my Helix a couple years ago. There were videos out there showing like this is what this guy's tone sounds like and this is how I dialed in the Helix to sound just like it. And then I buy it and download it, put it in my Helix exactly as I'm instructed to, and it doesn't sound even close to what it sounded like in the video. Not even close. And it felt terrible and it sounded terrible and I totally got ripped off. And you reach out to these people and you ask them, why doesn't this sound like it does in the video? And you know what their typical response is? Well, I mean, my guitar is different than yours. Tone is in the hands and all that bull crap. I'm sorry, but those things are true to a certain point, but they're not going to change the tone so much that it's not recognizable anymore. So be very careful who you buy from, and definitely take advantage of the free samples if they're offered, because that's going to tell you everything you need to know before you spend your hard-earned money. This is literally what I think happens with some of these guys that make patches for Helix, Axe-Fx, and Headrush. They'll take a famous guitar player's tone and say, this is what it sounds like isolated, and they'll show it, and they'll say, this is what I dialed in to make it sound just like it, and they'll show that. And really what I think they're doing in the audio file is they're copying the guitar player's tone and pasting it over their tone so that you think it sounds exactly the same. And I bought a few of these based on what I saw and heard, and they didn't sound anything like they did in the video. So all you guys that do that, shame on you, you know better. A lot of these packs aren't that expensive, but when you buy several packs for $20, $60, $30, this and that, and they all sound like crap, and then you finally find one that works for you after you spent all that money, even though that pack was only, let's say it's $30, but all the money you spent before that, you have to add to that, because that's really what you spent to find a good pack of profiles, patches, or impulse responses that work for you. So be very careful before you spend your money. Don't fall down the money rabbit hole as well. Okay, so after you purchase these, make sure you don't get overly excited and just start turning knobs and trying stuff out. Make sure you read the information that comes with the download so that you can check out what cabs, what amps, what mics, and all the other information that they're using to create these. And the next thing that you want to do is go for what you're familiar with. I'm very familiar with a Mesa 4x12 cab with vintage 30s, mic'd with a 421 and a 57. Those are my go-to settings that I look for. And typically I'll find something really good in there with just a few turns of the knob. Once I find some good stuff in there, I save it, I put it in my favorites folder, and then after that I can start venturing out and seeing what else is out there that maybe I haven't thought of yet. And sometimes you could find some really good gems out there with speaker, cab, and mic configurations that you never really thought of trying before. Okay, so now that you have your favorites folder filled with all of the top contenders that you've ran through the whole gambit of tests, including the how does it fit in a mix test, and they've passed all that, well, basically the next thing that you have to teach yourself how to do is just stick with these. Stick with these for a while. And yes, rotate them so that you don't get bored. But at the same time, stop searching for a while and just enjoy these and get to know them better. and start playing again and stop tweaking, because after all, we're musicians, not tweakers, right? I mean, we just want to play, we want to write, we want to perform, we want to record, and that's what you want to do with these. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this episode helped you as much as it helped me. Believe it or not, I learned a lot just doing this episode, so I got a lot out of it, and I'm happy to do it for all of you as well. I really want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. The channel's growing pretty fast, especially lately, and I appreciate all of the new subscribers and all of the people that have been with me since day one. I appreciate you immensely, and I always try to do my best to put out the most helpful content that I can, and hopefully it's entertaining enough to keep you engaged all the way to the end. I have a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'll see you on the next episode.